again, like, yeah, people always say like, oh man, like I'm such a bad artist or whatever, and it's like, well, how much have you been doing it? Because like I don't consider myself great. I got some skills, but I've been doing it for like I liked doing it so much that I've done it for 20 some years, you know. So
and that's the thing I always think about in terms of that is when I try to play piano and I get so like, I suck, and it's like, yeah, you don't play piano yet. Like, this is it's like learning how to read for the first time.
Yeah.
You're not going to be good. And that's frustrating because you want to be able to like just have fun and express all the thoughts that are going through your mind. But it's like, you're not going to be able to.
And you still can in a, you know.
In a shitty way.
Yeah.
Hey guys, we're back for another episode of Magnolia House. Alex Fuller, Tony Peterson. You know who it is. No, not at all.
Do you know where you are right now?
So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like we're both. I'm a little zoinked out because I got 4 hours of sleep. Yeah. Seems like you guys are having
it's just been a week of a lot of stuff with Clementine's dad being in town.
Yeah,
who we interviewed.
Yeah,
on the last episode.
He's a super cool dude, though.
He is super cool, you know. And it was such a great like week, I think, for him and for us and for Ira. Yeah. It was like the quintessential like families visiting.
Yeah.
Week,
Oh, that's obviously his first time meeting Ira, right?
Yeah.
And how often does he get to see Clem?
Once every couple of years.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully more now.
Weird? Isn't that weird that you have a kid and then, unless you're really wealthy, then you can just pop in and out whenever you want. Mm-hmm. But like, seeing your kid every few years or every couple of years.
I mean, it's because he lives across the state. Or
the
country.
Literally on the opposite side of the country.
Yeah.
But that's weird to me.
Yeah.
Like my mom, she bounced for like 4 years.
Wow.
Like in our like fundamental years of childhood. Like that sounds crazy to me.
To leave.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't
like how anybody would do that. Okay. You know what I just found out? We're already going on a tangent. So I'm the only Peterson, right? Like my mom's not even Peterson.
Yeah.
And I was at a bar with my mom the other night. She forced me to come out. It's the worst bar I've ever been to. But we were having a discussion about why that is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fucking dark story.
Really?
Oh, I hope my dad doesn't see this one. Not really, but it was essentially like my dad didn't want to be a dad at that moment. So she was like, okay, well, I'm giving him my name and you don't have to have anything to do with that situation. He's like, okay. And then like weeks later or something, he decided I'm amazing. So he changed his mind. But that's the fucking story. The story I never knew that I was unwanted.
Whoa.
And then my mom bounced later.
Oh,
what's that?
Geez. And your dad never said anything about that?
No, he would never. Do you know, this is something, I don't know if you I think I've told you in the past. My dad didn't bring me, my family didn't know that my dad had a kid until I was a year old.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Which is weird as, how do you hide a human being for a whole year?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I mean, it's probably easier back then when you're not posting pictures or doing video chats or I don't know.
What the hell? A whole year. I could not imagine hiding my child for a year.
A year seems like such a long time.
Yeah.
Especially Ira being 6 months
and
old.
And then how weird would that be? You going up to your siblings with a fully formed 1-year-old baby. Yeah. You're like, this is my kid. Like, what the fuck, man?
Well, I mean, imagine how crazy it is when people, years after they have a relationship and then they are confronted with like a 7-year-old or like, an 18-year-old being like, oh, you're my dad.
Oh.
Being like, you're my dad. You didn't, like, no, my mom didn't tell you about me. And like,
that's
I mean,
super
what a
weird.
Like
and also what a life changer. Like,
right.
Like, but especially also, if you had no idea.
Yeah. And depending on the kind of person you are, I might be like, oh my God, like I didn't even do, like I had no hand in raising you at all. And like now the opportunity is gone to like, now I have to deal with this psychological issue that you have been burdened with.
And
then now we're both burdened with.
Yeah. And also you're essentially strangers.
Yeah.
So it's
my gosh.
Yeah. That's super weird.
I wonder if that's any different than becoming an adult and then like learning how to be an adult with your parents. You know what I mean?
What do you
mean? Because like I with my dad, my dad, I don't think sees me as like a person really. I think he sees me as like the kid he had to take care of for a long time. My mom has always had a very like holistic view of me, I think, you know, kind of let me, I think, you know, she still sees me as her kid, but like respects my self. But like, I think I would bet, and I feel like there's an adjustment of like learning how to deal with your parent as just another adult, as opposed to like your parent, you know what I mean?
That's a super weird dynamic. And also it's weird how the older you get, the more, because I had really young parents. Like my mom had her first kid, my older brother, when she was 15. She had him when she was 16, I think. So that means she got pregnant at 15. And then my dad was like 18 when he had me. And that was 9 years ago for me. Like that was like me having a kid 9 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
And so like it's weird thinking about your parents as like essentially kids when they had you, you know? And it's like, as much as you want to fucking be pissed at them for, you know, maybe fucking up as much as you feel they did, but they were fucking young. And I can't be pissed because I'm here as a result, and I'm grateful to be alive.
Sure, of course. Yeah. And always retrospectively, it's hard to think about it that way. And that was the trouble that Clementine and I had when we thought about having a kid, was like the weird talking about somebody who doesn't exist yet. It just, you can't go too far down that, because it just becomes a really weird conversation of whether or not you decide if someone should live.
Well, it gets even darker on my side, because, and this, I always feel like a dick saying this. Every one of my nieces and nephew, when I found out my brother or sister was pregnant, I said abortion. Have an abortion, because they are kids. They were kids when they they're not kids anymore. But my brother, it was the same cycle. My sister got pregnant at 15 or 16, but relatively close to the same as my mom. And my brother had his first kid when he was 18, same as my dad. And it is literally the whole trope of repeating the cycle. That's exactly what they did. And so it's like, I try to talk to them like, bro, look at how fucked up we are, right? Like, you have to be so conscious and aware when raising them in order to not fuck them up in all of the same ways that we got fucked up, you know? And right now it's looking like an exact repeat of history. Like split up parents, addictions, inconsistencies. And that just shows, I don't know how we already got on such a deep conversation. But one thing I always, and I still to this day don't feel like I have, and it's insane how important it is looking back, is stability. Like having consistent schedule. Like I had friends who lived in the same house their whole life. Which that is mind blowing to me. As a kid, I probably moved 10 or 12 times. That's like crazy. Before high school. Like so many times, whether it was just can't afford this place anymore, or eviction, or splitting up, so we're going to separate places, or getting married, so we're moving into a new place, then divorce, so getting a new place, and it's like moving in with family members. It's the lack of stability is insane, and that's super important for.
And I feel like maybe you still experience that. That has a very foundational, like, it changes you. Like it changes the way you think about things, the way you like see the world, the like way you comport yourself. I mean, I almost come from a little bit of the opposite, where my dad has had the same house for ever.
I always joke that your dad's house is like a museum.
That's what people say, like it's stepping back in time when you go into the house.
It is a time machine. Like
it's been exactly the same. And my dad, it's like this, he does the same thing every day, like super routine,
very
like
routine.
crazy routine. Like, and then like he thinks the same way. Like it is very much like a very clear, like structured way of thinking about.
Do you think there's any? I don't know the right word. It's not neuroses. Do you think it's like a thing? Like he has to do the same thing every day? I think
it's partially a coping, like thing of like, this is how I create stability. And especially because like, you know, he used to have like he was an alcoholic, and then like had to like just like quit that cold turkey, you know, and like took on the responsibility of a big family.
So did he do cold turkey? He didn't do rehab or any of that stuff?
He just stopped.
And like that's very much like him.
And I think, you know, that stuff just gets like, it gets shoved down, and I think you just kind of like bury it by building structure on top of it. But I think it's also part of his personality, and I think I definitely have, either I've inherited that or I learned it seeing him do that, of like doing the same thing over and over again. I'm very much a habit forming person.
Yeah.
I have an addictive personality, and I'm a very habit forming person where I do things by forming habits, and I think about things by like having a very structured way of thinking.
And that's kind of like a safe place as a result. Like
it's
the structure.
Yeah. But for me, it definitely like, there's also a part of me that really likes new things and to experience a little bit of like, you know, always mixing something else.
It's probably more of your mom.
So probably a little bit more mom.
I do.
And then going back and forth between those two for me. Yeah.
I you know, do you know your grandparents at all on your dad's side?
On my dad's side, I knew my grandma when I was a kid. Like I spent some time with her, and I remember her being lovely. And my mom says she was one of the best mother-in-laws she could imagine anybody having.
Well, that's sweet. Yeah.
So I know she's a very sweet person. I remember my grandpa on my dad's side just being a very gruff, like kind of standoffish guy.
Isn't that weird? Speaking of cycles repeating, you just described your parents.
Sure. Yeah. Totally.
Which is so weird. Isn't that trippy?
Yeah. Yep. That's true.
That's super weird because your mom is the sweetest, kindest, most lovely person on the planet.
Yeah.
And your dad's he's a bit gruff. He's a bit gruff to say the least.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's totally, and then like as much as like for my mom, you know, she has her own bubbliness that I feel like my grandma didn't have, but in terms of like her welcoming and like understanding nature, I think she learned a lot of that from my grandma actually, and like she thinks of that a lot when, you know, she meets Clementine. She's like, I want to be a good mother-in-law to you because it helped her so much, especially because she moved here with my dad and into my grandma's house,
and they were
from
Guam?
Guam. Yeah.
Guam. Where's Guam in relation to the Philippines?
It's like just kind of further west in the Pacific.
And was your
Ocean,
dad
or further east in the Pacific Ocean?
What was he?
My grandpa was in the Navy.
So your grandpa was in the Navy.
My dad was a military kid.
Okay.
He grew up on the base in Guam and then lived on the island for most of his life.
You know, I know you probably haven't had many super deep talks with your dad, but his childhood, his upbringing, I wonder the stories he could tell.
You know,
like, what was he like when he was 17 or something?
So he doesn't talk about much what he was like as much as like what he experienced.
Yeah.
You know, when he was younger. I mean, he talks a lot about like kind of freedom and partying and kind of just doing hanging out and then like doing all the work and jobs that were on the island.
Yeah.
What's
he probably started working young.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, he's always kind of done work instead of school. He didn't go to college or nothing like that. I think he was about to get drafted into Vietnam once, but he never wanted to join the army or anything like that.
What were you gonna say before I interrupted you?
What's interesting to think about now is the fact that he grew up on Guam, which is one of the U.S. territories.
Yeah.
So it's an island. It's not. I mean, there was a semblance of American society there, but it was all fabricated from like the base and then outward. So, and then like he didn't. I mean, they integrated a little bit with like the native people there, the Guamanians, but like he knew
that what you call them?
Yeah,
Guamanians. Sounds like a cartoon.
But like for the most part, it was very Americanized kind of living for him, and as much as he didn't grow up here in the States, like in the continental United States, like in America proper, like
he was still in a version of that.
I think now it's like he doesn't think about the fact that his experience growing up was very different than what it was like to live in the U.S. during the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Like, because he wasn't here for all that.
Which is weird because you wouldn't think that because he's very
American. Yes. He's a very like America.
Yeah.
Very America type guy. So like it's just weird to like think that he had such an alternative like upbringing and yet he like just really subscribed to like the American like lines that were kind of given to everybody. And he's like nowadays, he was a very like independent libertarian type guy, and now he's more of the like
conservative
like
side.
Trumpian conservative type person. Yeah. So
I was just thinking about your picture frames.
Oh,
we don't have that. Yeah. But it's just interesting because one thing Rogan always talks about is like when he had a kid, he started seeing everybody as like a child who grew up, and like, so your dad was once, Ira size and he was a little boy, then teenager, then a man and all that stuff. And it's just interesting thinking about what he was like when he was that age, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would have gotten along with my dad when he was younger. It's hard to tell because like when I was in like high school. So when I was in high school, like I was very alternative type person. Like I just felt like an outsider already.
Goatees.
I mean, yeah, part of it was the way I looked, but also it's like I just didn't like socially mix well with people.
Yeah.
And then like you just kind of gravitate. The alternative line is like the punk type hip. That was like the line I fell into. It was like the punk like hippie granola type thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. I was an art kid. But
you ever see Empire Records?
No. Oh yes, yeah.
I kind of see you in that.
Oh yeah, I wish I was that cool. Not that cool. Yeah. I don't know. I think I was the more bookish art type. I don't know what I was. We were just having this conversation the other day. I do not know how people saw me in high school. I just remember it being a rough experience.
You know what I was thinking about? It was a really sad thought. For the high school yearbook, senior year, me and this girl Hannah both got nominated for class clown.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we were in the yearbook. And I was thinking, I was like, we probably got nominated that for entirely different reasons. Like her, she's genuinely funny and goofy. And I think for me, it was like, you're a clown. Like,
yeah, but you are funny.
Well, yeah.
Like you are cracking jokes all the time.
Yeah.
Things like
but
that.
it's just, I don't know, the way I was thinking, I was like, there's two versions of it. There's like the sad clown and there's like the goofy.
Right.
You know? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just hoping that I wasn't the former.
I was voted most artistic in my class, and then they left our picture out of the yearbook.
Well, actually, I heard that was actually a mistake. They meant most autistic. I'm kidding.
See, that was pretty good. That was pretty good. Except for too bad for the person who hit me in the picture. But
yeah. No, it's weird thinking about our parents as young people, or even at our age right now.
Well, we've talked before about like how we are different people as we grow up.
Yeah.
And it's like, how much do you identify with who you were so long ago?
Yeah.
And I feel like some people like, stay very true, like don't change at all, which scares me, honestly. And there are people who like evolve over time.
Yeah.
But
I think I've, there's been positives and negatives to the evolution of where I am now.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think I had, and I don't know if this is just a physical thing, like I'm decaying and dying, but I had fucking ungodly, unlimited amounts of energy. Like just so much energy all the time.
Gotcha,
yes, man, I'll do anything, anytime. Like just tell me when and where.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I'm so much not that anymore.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
With like close friends, I'm like always down to chill and hang out. But like I was up for anything.
New things,
and
anything.
just fucking 100 miles an hour, just talking all the time to the point where it was probably really obnoxious. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's weird because I guess your dad's technically an immigrant.
I mean, he was born in Washington, actually,
okay.
and then he moved, and then they moved to Guam when he was a kid, and then he grew up there.
But it's interesting because my dad, all of my family, and I'm actually going to El Salvador tomorrow morning. My whole family's from there, and so, but they were all. God, isn't it crazy? My grandma has, one passed away in I think what would be considered a NICU. Back in the wartime, there was a civil war in El Salvador. She had her last child. And a bomb went off in the hospital because it was a huge civil war. A lot of people know about it. It was pretty highly publicized and funded by the U.S. government, I believe.
As a lot of the wars were back then.
Yeah. And so, Reagan, you killed my uncle. No, I'm just kidding. But no, it's really sad that he a bomb went off either at or near the hospital. Power went out, and because he was premature, I believe. But no, but it's crazy that my grandma or anybody had 10 kids. That's crazy. So like the oldest was like 18 or in his 20s or something when he got here, and the like 2 or 3 of the oldest got here first. But then my dad got here when he was like 8. And that's, I can't imagine what that's like. Like imagine if you had to move to like, let's say Italy or something at 8 years old, not speaking any Italian and having to go to school.
Right.
That would be so difficult and weird.
Yeah. definitely, most definitely.
It'd be super difficult.
Because that's that age where you're still figuring out. Well, 7 or 8, you're just figuring out like the social life. You know, you've kind of figured out kind of how the world works, developmentally speaking.
And how much of an outcast must you feel like on a regular basis if you can't even communicate with your classmates?
Yeah,
that's weird. Yeah. But it's also your brain is at that stage where it's pretty malleable and it's considerably easier to learn a new language.
Yeah, sure.
But then you have somebody like my aunt who's probably like 8 or 9 years older than him, and she's Hispanic, but she sounds like she's Russian. Her accent is so thick. And my dad has no accent. He sounds like a white guy on the phone. But yeah, I don't know where I'm going with any of this, but it's weird to think about our parents as kids.
As kids,
you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be just as weird at one point. Well, the thing is, though, and then as I get older, I experience this, is that, like, when I think back, like, it seems like not that long ago, it was the year 2000, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that was 20 years ago.
Scary.
20 years ago.
Yes.
Right? So then you think about our parents who were born, you know, like in the 50s, 60s or whatever.
Yeah.
Or I don't know when your parents were born.
Yeah, 76.
70,
yeah.
okay, so 70s.
73.
And
Something
for
like
them, you know, when they were 10, like, to them, maybe not that long ago, like the 80s weren't that long ago for them, which was like,
well, how
different the world is now.
I had like an existential bit of a meltdown, not really a minor meltdown, because I went out with my mom and my aunts and all that stuff, and my uncle, who I haven't seen in 15 years or something like that. Mm-hmm. And it's weird when you're a little kid and you look at your aunts and uncles or your parents, they look like old adults,
right?
Like, you know,
yeah.
And you realize looking back, they're probably the age we are now, or maybe even younger. Like, my parents were really young.
For sure.
And then I see them now, and I still look at them as older.
Right.
But pretty soon, I'm going to be at the age that they're at. Mm-hmm. And it's going to come quick. Like, quicker than you think, you know?
Oh, yeah. Well, and your nephews and nieces see you as an old adult.
As an old guy.
Old person.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, which is
I experience
weird.
it all the time working with kids.
Yeah.
They're pretty sure the first guess is always you're like 40 years old.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, okay, whatever.
Cool. And yeah, man, that's just, you know, I get tripped out sometimes when I see like a really older person at like a Safeway or something, like at a grocery store, right? Mm-hmm. And it's, I know this sounds obvious and stupid, but like, I'm going to be that age one day. And it's just trippy to think about that, because I'm not there yet.
Right.
And like, if you're our age, you're not there yet, but you know you're going to get there one day.
Right.
And then one day you're going to look back and be like, I used to be this young, virile, like, person.
And it didn't feel that long ago.
And yeah, and it didn't, it's not going to feel like it was that long ago.
Right.
And then you get to the next stage, which is like my grandma, who just passed like last week. Mm-hmm. And I was telling you guys this the other night. It's fucking sad, man. Like, one of my aunts, after she passed, luckily they had time to get her cremated and all that stuff, but froze all the assets that she had set up for her own funeral and memorial and all that stuff. Huh. And so everybody who was planning on it, they just canceled the memorial.
Wait,
like,
really?
Nothing.
What the
yeah.
fuck?
And so everybody who was here, who flew in, just went back. People who were gonna fly in just didn't.
You didn't meet up or nothing?
Nobody did anything.
Wow.
And to me, that's so sad.
Yeah.
Like, and it's just super weird, because I just saw her a little over a week ago.
Yeah.
And it's.
Is this like a existential moment for you? Like, I'm gonna die someday, and this is
no,
like...
it's not that deep. I've had a lot of those, but it's just weird to me because I've never had anybody close to me die, and I hadn't seen my grandma on my mom's side in probably over 10 years, well over. But it's weird to me to think about this woman who I have no connection with, really. And I stay away from my mom's side because they're kind of extremely problematic. Like, they got kicked out of the hospital when seeing her, a few of them, because they just get into fights. And that's the part of my mom's side that I know is in me that I'm always trying to fight.
Sure, yeah.
But it's weird to think that I couldn't exist if she hadn't existed.
Right.
And she is not my mom, but she's a version of a mother in the sense that she had to be here for me to get here, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that person doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
And that's very weird to me. And I know this sounds obvious and whatever to some people, but I've never had anybody in my family die. And that's another thing I'm very terrified of.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, this is the first time I've had any kind of real brush with a death in the family. And albeit we weren't close at all, but she's my mother's mother, which again, I've already stated, it's obvious. I wouldn't exist if she wasn't here.
Right.
And now she's gone. And that's
what-
weird.
what-
That's so weird. to
What
me.
do you feel when you like think about that? Is it sadness? Is it
It's sadness
regret?
for her.
Is
It's weird. Not really
guilt?
regret or guilt. A couple things come to mind. I just saw her, and she was. My mom told me that I saw her on the best day, like the day after her mental health started declining, and she barely knew who anybody was, but she knew who I was. We talked. She was so sweet, another interesting thing is, again, my mom's side is very problematic and angry and aggressive, and lots of people in and out of jail, which brings up another point I got to bring up, but my uncle is in jail. He didn't get to see his mom before she passed. But it's weird because she was not the nicest person growing up, but seeing her on her deathbed, and I brought this up to Clem, she was like, yeah, you're on your deathbed. You have no reason to hold any ill will or anything, but she was so sweet and so calm. And she was so ready. I always feel like if I knew I was about to die, I'd be melting down. Like I would just be freaking out. Like it's too soon. Any time is too soon to me. Even if you're 85 years old.
You don't know what it's like.
But again, you don't know what it's like when you're that age. But you know me, I've always joked like I'm going to freeze myself, or like I'm going to try to hope that
your consciousness
technology,
in a computer,
do some bullshit. And I've grown past that a bit. I still am considering freezing myself because that seems potentially viable. But she was so, and it's I don't know if uncouth is the wrong word. But part of me just wants to ask, like, what is going through your mind right now? You have been here and she was only 72, which is kind of young.
Yes.
But like, I would like to know what is going on in your mind right now. You are not going to be here within the week. And the doctor said, she could last a few more months if she was just on oxygen 24/7, never get off of it. And she didn't even want to be in oxygen in the fucking hospital. She's like, no, I'm good. And it was just weird talking to her, just having conversations, knowing that you're going to be gone the next time. I almost said the next time I see you, but and then now she's ashes, which is weird too. But back to my uncle, so my uncle's in jail and he's been there for like a month or so, and he's going to be in there for a few more months. But that's another thing that's super heavy, like not being able to see your mother before she passes. That's really sad.
Well, that
really
makes me
heavy.
think of all the COVID folks who didn't get to see their family.
That's fucking dark, man. Saying goodbye to one of the people you love most in this world from an iPad or something. Like that's
rough.
Fuck, man.
Yeah. Rough.
Fuck. I would kidnap them out of the hospital. if they were cool with it, I'd be like, fuck your rules.
Yeah.
I don't care.
No, and
I'll quarantine for fucking 3 months if it means I can see
I get that.
Dad,
I get that perspective. It's your personal benefit versus the public benefit, and it's like it's that Matthew McConaughey versus Matt Damon situation, right? It's like it's like the
But
it's like what I want versus
Duncan
what's
Trussell
good for
has
everybody.
I don't know if you watched that Midnight Gospel episode about death.
I have watched them all. I haven't, and I would like to rewatch them.
Yeah, there was one where she's talking about dead people, and she's like, and she goes into the history of embalming and whatnot. I don't know if you recall that, but how it was like it started during a wartime,
right? So,
and then they wanted to keep it going, otherwise, like, because that's their whole career. So they're like, we have to find a way to keep making money. Right. So
maybe we could explain that it started in wartime as a way to keep soldiers alive, or keep soldiers their body preserved so
to get back home.
Yeah, to get them to see their families, and so it became an industry.
Yes, a whole industry that people were making money from. And then when the war was over, they that was their livelihood at that point.
Right.
And so they tried to find a way to keep it going. And so they convinced people that, you know, like dead bodies were dirty and disease ridden,
yeah.
and that you need to get them embalmed.
Yep.
And the woman on the show, she was like, you can have a person in the room with you for a few days if you
Right.
wanted, and they're less dangerous than a living person because they're not excreting bodily fluids or sneezing or coughing or farting or doing any of the things
Just
that
a
normal people
capsule.
do. Yeah, really. And so, yeah, if I knew that my mother or dad was gonna die and they wouldn't let me see them, I would fucking go Johnny Q and hold the fucking place up. I don't know if you've seen that movie. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
But I would fucking cause a riot.
Sure, and people did.
Yeah.
And I'm sure people did,
And,
honestly.
And you know what? And, you know, it may be, you know, you're fighting against the betterment of everybody else. I'll quarantine for fucking 6 months if you want me to. I'm not going to let the last moments of the two people that I care most about on this planet go without me seeing them. Out of the question.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I like the thing is, I understand both the perspectives of what you're wanting and what people were suffering and not getting to experience before.
And also,
their loved ones passed. But,
just another point. With this whole Fauci and the CDC thing, they flip-flop on this and that. They're just people, dude.
Sure.
And they don't know shit. I mean, they know more than most people, and it's their field. But I'm not going to risk the fact that, it turns out it would have been fine. Go fuck yourself. I'm doing what I want.
Sure.
That's, you know.
Yeah, and again, like those people's jobs, and this is what I've been saying since like the beginning of the whole pandemic situation, is like those people's jobs are to tell people what the best practices are based on their expertise.
Yeah.
Right? Like if they say like, based on everything we've got, you know, it's probably best if you wear a mask. Like that's just like somebody has to say that.
But so how do you feel though from the Freedom of Information Act, did you see that Fauci's emails got leaked?
Oh, no, I didn't.
So in his emails, he openly stated that he was saying that masks at the beginning, because you remember he said masks don't work.
Right.
He said in his emails to somebody, another individual in private conversations, that the only reason he said that was so that he could keep the stockpile of masks for medical professionals.
Right. Yeah.
And then when they figured out it was going to be, they were going to have enough or whatever, he flipped it and said, masks do work. And it's like, why do I have any reason to trust you at this point?
Right.
You may have lied for a good reason, but you still lied.
Yep.
Just be straight up with us. And so how deep does that rabbit hole go?
Well,
how many things are they just chess piecing around?
I think it comes down to they don't trust the public to be smart. Well, first of all, they trust the public to panic. That is what they trust people to do. And even people who like are like staunch, like I want to make my own choices and have my own freedom.
Yeah.
They panic just as much.
Yeah.
Like I remember, as much as people didn't believe the pandemic was a big deal, as much as people like didn't want to follow mask mandates, people were stocking up on supplies and shorting everything out and like bringing everything to like a brink of collapse for almost no reason, right?
So especially at the beginning, when it was just
and so like the question is like, do you tell people that masks work, but we need to ration them for this people. And plus there was an administration at the time.
So he was he was the Michael Caine.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, right?
Well, yeah, in that moment, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it's as noble of a cause,
No,
but so, I mean, he made a manipulative choice to try and get an outcome.
Yeah.
But he was also working for an administration that wasn't doing anything on the federal level to like stockpile masks, to distribute to the states.
And
like,
also
nothing like that, So there was like a lot of stuff going on because the other choice for the government was to be like, nobody can buy masks.
Yeah.
We are taking control of all the masks. Like they're ours and we will choose who gets them. And that sounds pretty dystopian, right? Because like that's not, nobody wants that to happen either.
Fauci's like, me and my family get them.
Because that's what happens.
Friends,
no, and they were discovering that with the vaccine too, is that it was being given to people who had connections instead of
wealthy
just
people, Hollywood.
Right.
I don't want to get too deep into the pandemic just because I feel like people are tired of that. But
sure.
Just to say, I would ignore that rule, not being able to see your family. I'd be like, go fuck yourself. I'm taking my mom home.
Sure, but and it's one of those things. You definitely could discharge her. I mean, right? Like I think legally you're still allowed to do that, but it's one of those things where it's like, if you choose to take them to a hospital where they can probably help them, then like.
But I also think like with my grandma's situation, she went home.
It's like and that's the end of life thing. I think it was even in that same maybe Midnight Gospel where it's like people should go home.
Yeah,
people should spend their last few days and
instead
weeks
of a
at home.
sterile
Yeah.
fucking fluorescent
Because
light.
there's nothing
Yeah.
that you can really do for them, and at a
Yeah.
certain point, and like it's better that they're comfortable at home with family.
Yeah.
But then there are people who will fight that too, of like, hold out till the end, and maybe it'll turn around.
Yeah.
And people who
Yeah.
don't want to die,
Yeah.
like. Yeah, I would like to think that anybody who gets to that age or gets old enough, they discover some peace in life,
Yeah.
And I would like to say that wisdom is guaranteed.
Well, I've
but
also been
I think people do
told,
fight it too.
not told personally, but I've heard in conversations that your existential panic slowly subsides the older you get. And so like when you're young, it's like that episode of Family Guy when they're at a funeral and Stewie's like, oh, it's so sad she died. Good thing I'm never going to die. And Brian's like, you're going to die. And then he just fucking sheer panic to the point where he's like, I'm just going to fucking kill myself. I can't stand the suspense.
Sure.
And that's, I think, pretty on the nose about like when you're a kid and you first find out about death, you're just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And then I think as you get older, at least I hope, and it seems like it has for me a bit, it subsides a little bit. So by the time, 50 years from now, 40 years from now.
Well, yeah, and think about it like, we were talking about people in their 70s, right?
Yeah.
Which isn't that old these days,
Yeah.
and we are 30 about.
Yeah.
And
I'm not.
And I always,
you are maybe.
And I always say that, I wasn't really conscious until I was like in my teen years, maybe when I was 20 or something like that.
Yeah.
So I've been like really living life for 10 years, a little more,
Yeah.
right? And that's 10 years, and I really get to live life with my own autonomy for the next 40 years.
Yeah.
That's 4 times as long as I've been.
Yeah.
And a lot's already happened,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, my own personal philosophy, I have to say that I feel like I would be ready if tomorrow was my day, but like, I don't want it to be, of course, right?
I would
But I
fucking shit myself.
But it's just, you don't want it to be, you don't want to regret the last 30 years.
Yeah. And that's one thing we always talk about, which is like, feels like a lot of our day-to-day bullshit stuff, and I don't want to harp on the whole 9-to-5 thing, but I think it does impede us from living a truly meaningful life.
No, I know. And I think what it does, who was I talking? Maybe I was talking to Clementine about this. Oh yeah, we were talking about, we were passing this, was it a volunteer fire station, or it was like a rural fire station, and they were like, nope, bus drivers. It was, I don't know. I've been seeing so many like ads for like bus drivers around.
Yeah. Me too.
At schools and stuff. But one of them said, are you sick of retirement, or are you bored in retirement or something?
Yeah.
Like, come back to work and like work as a bus driver. And it lists all the benefits. But what I was like, what they're depending on is the fact that like this person who made it all the way to retirement, the only meaning they ever found in life was working. And now they're bored.
Yeah.
Because they can't work. They have found no other like meaningful thing.
That's such a like societal brainwashing.
So, yeah. So then what they're hoping is that someone is like, yeah, I have nothing to do.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to work.
Yeah.
And like, I'm going to come back to work and work until I die. And like, that's someone who has like very much lost any sort of sight of like their own personal life.
Yeah.
They've just become like a member of the machine,
Yeah. I try to think it would be nice to have a version of your life like when you're older where you don't have these obligations, like house is paid off, kids are grown up, like just me and my spouse, just fucking like, that's why like people travel when they're old. I feel like that would be the life to live, to finally get to see the world. Right. That's another thing that I always think about. It's like, I'm 27 years old. I'm visiting another country this week. But other than that, I've been to that same country once. And other than that, I've been to like Seattle and New York for a few months. That's it.
You mean to live?
To live. Yeah. I lived in, I lived in both of those but not even to just live. Like, I want to see Italy. I want to see China. I want to see Japan and fucking Spain and all. The world has so much to offer. And it's sad that like there's some people who are born in a city, never leave that city, and die in that city.
Right. Well, that used to be a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's just how life worked.
Yeah. But I also feel like life was a bit more fulfilling back like, you know.
I think it was fulfilling in the way of like you feel like you're really experiencing life, and it's giving like, I mean, that's the whole Marxist take, is that like people used to really identify with their jobs and it gave them meaning in life. Like you were a fisherman, or you were like this. I always say this was your thing.
In like, you know, a few hundred years ago, I would have loved to have been like a blacksmith apprentice or something.
Like,
you know,
some craft. Like, it's something that you were like involved with, good at, learned. And, like it was a skill you had.
Yeah.
And now we just treat all work as just like labor.
Yeah.
Like it's just time. It's like, how much time can you put toward this or this? And it's interchangeable what you do.
Yeah.
Right. And like,
it's interesting. I went to my brother's studio yesterday, his glass blowing studio. And right now he's doesn't have a normal job. He's just blowing glass, fulfilling orders for shops and all that stuff. And he's doing it full time now.
Dang.
And I said to him yesterday, I was like, dude, you made it. Like in my mind, that's the base level version of making it. Like you don't have a 9-to-5. You're doing a job that is your passion, and you're just doing that all day. Like that's making it in life to me. Like if I could find a way to fucking make bullshitting money.
Yeah, man, we should have just gone all in on a screen print studio, because that's an easy way to make money.
God. Somebody's moving.
Who's moving? Yeah, no, but that is what I would like to, because I'm such a production person too. I just like to make stuff and do stuff.
I like the whole idea we talked off camera about, like making a robot guy for virtual guests and like doing the signs and all that stuff. Like I love doing that kind of stuff. It's just fun. And if that was your job to just do those kind of things, that's a dream come true.
Yeah, that would be nice. It's making me think, just with all the, back to kind of the pandemic stuff, like with everybody kind of stopped working for a bit, right? Or most people stopped working with the pandemic. Yeah. And like I definitely experienced, not because of the pandemic, actually, interestingly enough, when Ira was born, I had 3 months of family leave. Yeah. And Clementine and I just got to spend time with
that's
our
a
family.
new thing, right? Paternity leave?
In Washington, actually just starting this year. It was enacted the year before, but just starting in 2020, I guess 2020. Paid family leave is basically like a form of unemployment. So if you have put in enough work the year prior.
That's why I was 14 months old when he was born, because Clem was just like holding it in until that bill was passed. She's like, nope.
But it is a new thing.
He was in there an extra 5 months. He can already talk.
And walks. He has a little treadmill he works on. But yeah, it's a newer thing here, and it honestly is like, it's so great, and it's for new parents like who've just given birth, or when you adopt a kid into your family. It's a bonding time, you know. And it, like, first of all, it's like such a great foundational thing that you can both like figure out some rhythm and get a baseline before and everything like that. But it was like we kind of got to just like live our life and like be the best like new parents we could be for 3 months. Yeah. You know, and then going back to work, it's like then you realize like what you have to give up to work in terms of being, you know, like, around and all that stuff. And I think people have experienced that in the pandemic too, is like they had time. They even working class people finally had time to like be like
breathe,
to be like all right, what would I do if I could just live whatever life I wanted? Yeah. And some people probably did similar things or did nothing, or you know, there's probably a whole gamut of things. But I think, and what I'm experiencing now in trying to find a job that suits the life I want and like the kind of fits everything, is like I want some flexibility, and I want some like I want to do something I care about. I want some flexibility, and I want to just be able to make sure I'm still living like a meaningful life. I don't feel like everything's a drain on me, and it's just giving me pause of like I don't have to be desperate to take anything. You know, and that's a privilege to not like. And I think people are experiencing that. And it's why this whole like myth of like there's a shortage of workers. I think it's and I think it's not so much like, of course it is that like some people are more financially stable because of the support they've gotten. But people are saying like, is this the kind of job I want to work? Yeah. Is like, and the desperation is gone. Yeah. Like you are no longer like working to desperate people or going to desperate people to get them to work for you. Yes. It's like these people have a little bit more agency for at least the time being. The
time being, yeah. And also the jobs that they're maybe going back to, they pay so little. They're like, right, what the fuck am I doing here? Like I'm what's above this, you know?
And I think that the whole argument against minimum wage increase is like, if you do that,
For
then
the business owners.
businesses will go out of business.
Yeah.
Businesses will go out of business. Yeah. And
If they
like,
can't
and things
pay-
will, and things will cost more.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like we don't have businesses in here that are like, well, if I can't pay my worker $2 an hour, then I can't have a job. Like I can't run a business. Like maybe you shouldn't run a business.
Yeah, you
if you're only
shouldn't
gonna pay
be in
people,
business
you know,
if you can't afford to pay a living wage.
Yeah. If people can't live off of what you're paying them, if you're like causing people to have 3 jobs and work 80 hours
or
a
be
week,
on financial aid somehow.
Yeah.
Just government aid.
like then that's not a job.
Yeah.
That is like, you know, it's like the gig stuff, you know,
Yeah.
it's like little bits of work and not
Yeah.
like any substantial thing anybody can live off of. So I do understand, and as much as like I do believe that like small businesses are great because they're like local and people who actually care about what they're doing and things like that. I think that not every business is viable, and especially the like shit businesses that like don't make a lot of money, so they can't pay a lot. Like that's how capitalism works. Is like this business is not a good
natural
model.
selection.
Yeah. You got to have something everybody wants, and that you can like
Yeah.
contribute to the economy by paying people
That makes enough money
live.
to pay. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, not to throw it in your face, but we could be living the dream life if we just started our community center. Yeah. God, could you imagine though? Imagine if we just had a setup, like all of this setup, and if this was just one part of it, you know, like the print room and fucking all the other shit we could do. That is the dream.
Yeah.
Straight up.
would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie, it's still my dream. But yeah.
Maybe in a couple of years, if I can get the house situation figured out and all that stuff.
I mean, who knows where the next year or two will take either of us, you know.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna go. Again, I'm gonna hire somebody to sabotage your entire life and make you move back here. I did want to tell the story. It's a stupid, just me whining. But you asked me how packing was going this morning.
Oh yeah, because you're leaving tomorrow.
Do you know what I fucking found out yesterday? We had a family breakfast, and I go over there and we're FaceTiming my cousin who's also gonna go on the trip. She's in Bellingham right now. They're like, yeah, what are you packing? Blah, 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 this, and this. And then like, well, Tony's actually has a thing of luggage that he doesn't know he's actually going to be taking. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, yeah, so you're just bringing carry-on and you're going to take all the stuff that grandma wants in place of your luggage.
What?
And I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, you want me to live out a fucking backpack for 2 weeks?
Why? And why you?
Yeah, and why me? And so my fucking aunt has the gall to come by and she says, well, you know, you're a boy. You don't really need that much stuff. No. And I just wanted to be like, fuck you. Like, that's so bullshit and sexist. But I probably got more pissed off than I should. But like, I was like, when were you guys planning on telling me? Mm-hmm. Like when I was going to show up with all my stuff and be like, actually, can you fit all that in a backpack real quick so we can bring all the stuff grandma wants to bring?
Yeah.
I'm like,
can't you just pay for an extra carry-on?
And that's the thing.
Or
I was
extra,
like, I am
bag?
paying for an extra one for all the cameras and stuff, like in the microphones and stuff. But then they just tried to, they were like, okay, well then, you know, grandma doesn't need to bring all the stuff to the poor people over there. And I'm like, oh, well, go fuck yourself, man. So I agreed to it. But I was just like, what the were you not going to ever tell me? Like, because when my cousin said it, she was like, I didn't mean to let that slip. And I was like, what do you mean? Why did nobody tell me this shit?
Yeah.
That's just so fucked up, man.
Nobody else can bring.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And like 2 days before, like, give me a break, man.
Yeah.
So, but I am stoked to go. God, you haven't been to like the Philippines or anything, have you?
No, haven't.
Man, is it rude to say third world country? Is that a shitty thing to call
that is
place?
I think that's an outdated term.
Yeah.
But like there's not a lot of positive ways to put it because there's the underdeveloped
Savage land.
There's underdeveloped, which also is not very nice.
Yeah.
And then there's non-industrial country or something like that.
But
like I've heard a lot of arguments for like
that seems like it's getting into the territory of the unhoused.
all countries are just countries.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, but you're trying to communicate something.
Yeah.
By saying it's
we've talked about this before, like the simplicity of, and you know, they would view it as like, we're in fucking poverty. Like we want to be in the U.S. A lot of them do.
Sure.
But it's like, again, the grass is green on the other side. Like I would fucking love to live there for like a year, you know?
Right.
And I don't know what you would do for work there, but man, everything's just beautiful and green. The raindrops are like fucking gigantic. So it's like you're going swimming when you go out. There's like every morning at like 6 a.m, because everybody wakes up wicked early there. At least my family does. Everybody's up by like 5:36.
Yeah.
And it's just like they're just a collection of cute old ladies just having coffee and talking. One of my great aunts, great aunts or something like that. I don't know. But she has this little like parrot or bird or something that she just feeds, and she gives them a little bit of coffee. I don't know what it is about my family. They're always trying to give people coffee. But it knows the exact coffee time. Like, because they have coffee at the same time every day. So it like starts like freaking out, like, where's my coffee?
Oh my gosh.
But every morning you hear a little bike chime, and it's the bread guy coming. He's like announcing bread, and they have fresh bread. And then like a couple hours later, it's always at the same time, the ice cream guy comes by. And so like he's got like an ice cream cart, and it's like, when I went there, it was 5 cents for an ice cream cone.
Wow.
Or 25 cents for a giant ice cream cone. It's like, God damn. But yeah, I don't know. I'm really looking forward to it.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
I wish I could go with you.
Yeah. God, I tried to get John to go with me, that motherfucker. The tickets are so cheap. They're like $500 there and back.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like going to the Philippines costs a lot of money.
Does it?
Thousands of dollars. Yeah.
Really? Why?
Because you got to go across the Pacific. I think you got to land in like Hawaii or Japan, which is like a costly flight.
Yeah.
Plus it is like, I don't know, it's hooked up with the U.S. over there. I mean,
Yeah.
it was like formerly a territory. So I think, I don't know.
There's some bullshit.
There's some, yeah.
Yeah.
Somehow it's a destination. Maybe it's more of a destination.
Yeah.
I think. I don't know.
Well, I'll try to come back with some good footage, maybe some interviews. I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to do the interviews, being that I don't speak the language.
Well, you could have your aunt
Just
or
have them
something
all.
with you.
Yeah, well, my cousin is going to be basically my designated interpreter.
Your
Yeah.
cousin from the Solid War?
No, she's here. She's one of the cool people who actually didn't. When I was a kid, my family would try to teach me Spanish, and I'd be like, "No, that's stupid." And then eventually they're like, "You know what? Fuck you, little kid. Fine. You want to be a dumb, singular languaged." I can't even talk English.
I throw balls far. You want good words? Data languager.
Me no talk so good. But she actually learned Spanish, so she's fully bilingual. So
wow, that's
it's nice
legit.
to have her. I'm sorry. But yeah, I think we can wrap it up. That was a pretty decent one. If you're ready.
Do you want to wrap it up?
Yeah.
I mean,
We
we're
can go.
hearing Ira, I think. Is
Yeah.
that why we're wrapping it?
Oh, I don't know. I can go as
Oh.
long as you want. I just
Oh.
didn't know if you were on a time crunch.
I'm not on a time crunch.
Oh, okay.
I do hear Ira waking up.
Is he waking?
I'll maybe have to check on him real quick.
Breathing.
So Ira's okay, if everybody was wondering. I don't know if everybody was wondering. He's fine, but he might join the podcast in a minute if we need.
Yeah.
If he needs to.
Oh, we always forget to say we're taking a break or something.
Oh.
I mean, we kind of said.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, where do we want to go from here?
Well, you had something you wanted to say about something that we were just talking about. Was it Lil Nas X?
Oh God, yeah, Lil Nas X, Industry Baby. That song is so damn catchy. I was almost gonna play it for you, but then you'd have to turn off the mics and do all that shit. But
fine.
it blows my mind the simplicity of some of the biggest chart topper songs. Because I try so hard to like make some things in terms of music, and I'm like,
Right.
this is shit. Like, but when you guys had breakfast, and I was working on stuff here, and I was super stoked, and I was like trying to put it together, and I was like, listened at the end, I was like, this is garbage. Like, that sucks, man. Why is it so hard? And again, I think that goes to like working alongside, having other people in the room, bouncing
Right,
ideas off
yeah.
of. That's always when I'm my best. But yeah, like that song "A Lot" by 21 Savage. I played it a while ago for you. That song is one fucking sample chopped up, super simple, with fucking 808
Right.
bass and just like some.
But
fucking
they
snare.
have words on top of it, right? That's kind of the focal point of it.
The rap.
It's the rap.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
So it's
That's
like,
why I wish I knew a fucking rapper.
Because
man.
if it's just the production, you gotta.
But it's still like Kanye and Tyler the Creator will do this. Tyler the Creator is a fucking mad genius, man. He posts like years after the actual album came out, he'll post just the instrumentals, and they are a track of their own.
Really?
Like they're so good and such a vibe. Like you don't even need like
Wow.
the singing or the rapping was just a fucking cherry on top.
Wow. Okay.
And that his production skill is just fucking on point, and he produces I don't know if that's something everybody knows about Tyler the Creator. He produces all of his own albums.
That's awesome.
And he doesn't know how to like necessarily play piano or guitar or any of that stuff. It's all feeling it out as he goes.
Wow.
It's fucking mad genius. Like, oh, it makes me so mad.
I mean, one thing they always told me in design school, which like I feel like would apply to you, is that even if like you recognize that your stuff is shit, like that you're doing right now, and you wish you could be as good as the people you admire, the fact that you can recognize what is good and then recognize that yours isn't good enough is like a sign that like you are on the right track. You just have to put the work in to get it to the next level.
That comedians talk about too. It's like when there's like a comedian who's just like a few years into it, and he'll get off the stage and be like, fucking murdered that shit. They're always like, those are the guys that are never going anywhere. And it's always the people who are like, God, I fucking fucked up one word and like fucked up my whole show. And like, yeah, those are the guys. The self-reflection is important. But yeah, I just wish I could, again, I wish I could just do it all day and I have collaborators and all that stuff.
Right.
Because that's when it's more fun.
Yeah. And I think it'd be nice to get in here and do some like art nights, you know, days, maybe necessarily days where we're not having to live stream the stuff we do and just working on the stuff we do, you know?
Yeah. I
maybe recording it for later, but like not like that being
forward content or something. Yeah. I do think sculpting is something that might be fun. Yeah.
I would love to try. 3D is such a different medium.
Yeah.
You know, like, but
I mean, that's another thing. When I was listening, I like to watch a lot of deconstruction videos of like beats and whatnot. And what one was it? It was, I'm not going to remember what beat it was. It's a really famous song. Oh, it was Laugh Now, Cry Later by Drake. It's one of his biggest ones right now.
Not a big Drake person.
God, well, you're very rare. Drake is amazing. Like, the way I view Drake is like, Kanye in my mind is number one because he's like a Renaissance man and a fucking artist, and like everything he does, he has his hand in every aspect of like the production, the like My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Have you ever listened to that album? Kanye talks about it like that was like the culmination of everything he could do. He's like, that was me proving to myself that I could make a perfect album.
Wow.
And if you listen to it, Chris Rock said this, and Chris Rock is actually on the album doing a skit. Yeah, it's one of the funniest skits ever. Chris Rock says that's the best album ever, and not just rap album. He's like, that's the best album ever. And I would agree. That album is so artistic and beautiful, and
thematically as well.
Thematically, yeah. And it's like, yeah, earlier on his themes have gotten less drastic and like fully articulated as he's gotten older in his newer days, but like all of them were very thematic, but My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy was definitely the most. But so what somebody was talking about, in terms of Drake. Okay, so in my mind,
right, I'm gonna get Ira.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna get Ira.
Yeah. All right. Hello, our cameras are over there, Ira.
But so Drake is like, he's a pop star. He's a rapper, but he's a pop star. And I think in terms of pop, when you get into like a lot of pop artists, a lot of their stuff is like brought to them, and like, we think this would be a big hit. You should do this. Put your energy into it. But like Kanye is like everything from scratch. He has a hand in everything.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Laugh Now, Cry Later, the guy who was, I believe is that one. I could be wrong, but he's doing a deconstructed video of how it was made, and he was like, oh no, it was fucking Broccoli by Drum and Lil Yachty. You probably don't know.
I don't know that song.
it's a fucking dope song. It was really catchy. It was really big in like 2016, 2017. Okay. But the producer, he was like, I was at the point where like, I'm done making music. Like, I'm so beat, like it's not really going the way I want it. And that day he had already agreed to come into the studio and work with some people. And Roger Shahayed, I've talked to you about him before. He's a classically trained pianist who's like now doing like Doja Cat and Drake songs and all these, almost all of the number one Billboard songs right now he has a part in. So he came in and did a session with him, and he was like, all of our biggest songs never come out of we need to make a hit. Like we're going in to make a hit. He's like, it's always like we're just going to fuck around, have fun, or even like I'm exhausted, but I'm just going to go do it.
Right.
And me, whenever I come in here, hi cutie, I'm always like, this needs to change my life. Like, and that's not the way to go about anything.
Yeah.
Like all the best stuff is just fucking around and having fun.
Right.
And that's hard, but it's like,
I think it's like a free flow, kind of thing. I feel like if you're putting the pressure on it, like that your psyche just can't take it.
Yeah.
And your psyche is where all that stuff comes from, like the soulful stuff. That's where like the real shit comes from, And if you're like putting all that pressure on it, you're going to trigger your neuroses. You're going to trigger all the stuff that your psyche struggles with, So
what do you have to say on it, Ira?
Is this going to make a lot of noise?
Yeah, we can cut that out though.
I wonder if we get him to say something into the microphone.
Ira. Hello.
He's not usually talkative when he's really interested in something. It's when he wants attention.
There we go.
Maybe. Yeah. Oh, nice. All right.
That's a good point. Yeah.
But yeah, I'd love to just have nights where we just hang out and like like you showed me that David show where he's just like messing around on that canvas.
Yeah.
I would love to.
I would love to do. I think it'd be fun. And we don't make money anyway, so the copyrights don't fucking matter.
Not right now. I don't
we could do a Bob Ross episode where we put. I've always wanted to paint alongside Bob Ross.
Oh,
and like,
you want to paint alongside him?
Yeah,
okay.
like have it playing up here, and then we can. Oh.
Ira likes it.
Yeah. But like, group like art nights are just the funnest thing ever. Yeah.
Well, the hard thing is like I have a lot of friends, but I have so many friends who are just like, oh, I'm not good at art, and like the whole like I'm not good at art thing is like
that goes back to a point you made a while ago.
Fun. I don't know.
You don't need to be an artist to do art, or just it doesn't need to be your career or anything.
Just to have the benefit of doing art, and to just like enjoy doing it. Like, again, like people always say like, oh man, like I'm such a bad artist or whatever, and it's like, well, how much have you been doing it? Because like I don't consider myself great. I got some skills, but I've been doing it for like I liked doing it so much that I've done it for 20 some years. So
and that's the thing I always think about in terms of that is when I try to play piano and I get so like, I suck, and it's like, you don't play piano yet. Like this is it's like learning how to read for the first time. You're not going to be good. And that's frustrating because you want to be able to like just have fun and express all the thoughts that are going through your mind, but it's like you're not going to be able to.
And you still can in a
in a shitty way.
Yeah. I mean, just the other day I was on the Clementine's piano, just like, and I always like, it's like I feel like anybody does this when they play a piano or guitar, and they're like, they do like a really simple like thing, like this sounds so good. It's like 3 different notes, like this is right. This could be a song.
I was doing that before you fucking got here.
I could play piano.
Yeah. My brain's kind of run down.
Yeah, this baby is got some energy from the nap. Smell like a baby.
Or a dying person.
Yeah, Ira, are we done? Are we done?
Hi.
All right, should we sign off here?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining this short episode.
Yeah, well, we'll probably cut a lot of this out.
Yeah.
So,
but ain't that just the cutest?
You probably are. We're probably cutting all this in not so seamlessly. So if you see me holding a baby, that's why.
How do we get over there?
But yeah, that was the episode, guys. Thanks for watching.
We'll see you when you get back, Tony.
Oh yeah. No,
or I guess maybe we'll see you when you're out there.
Unless I get kidnapped and murdered. Yeah.
Well, if you get kidnapped, you let me know. You give them my number.
Yeah. All right. See you guys.